Welcome to the Real Estate Roundtable podcast, where we sit down with some of the most successful real estate agents, brokers, and team leaders to learn about their journeys in this industry. I'm your host, Art Bettuzzi, and as a seasoned real estate agent of 29 years, I'm always fascinated by the stories of how others found success in this business. On this podcast, we'll be talking to our guests about the obstacles they overcame, the lessons they learned, and the tips and strategies they're using in today's ever-changing market. Whether you're a real estate agent, broker, team leader, investor, or just someone interested in real estate, you're in the right place. Our guests come from a variety of backgrounds, and they all have unique insights to share. We want to have fun with these interviews, but we also want to make sure that you come away with actionable tips that you can implement in your own business. New episodes will be released weekly, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for joining us on the Real Estate Roundtable podcast. Let's get started. Hi, welcome to the Real Estate Roundtable podcast. I'm Art Bettuzzi, and I'm joined today by an old friend of mine, Natalia Leontaraki. And I've screwed up her last name right from the get-go. And that's okay, because she knows that I just call her Natalia. Natalia and I met over 20 years ago at this point, where we worked together at a condo conversion company, one of the largest in the United States, American Invesco. And then, strangely, a couple of years later, we got to work together at another company, Equity Residential, where we did condominium conversions all over the United States. And Natalia has gone on from doing that. She has gone into the European market, moved to Greece, and she is currently the CEO of Von Paul Greece, which, as I understand it, and I'll let her tell you, is one of the biggest luxury real estate brands in Europe, if not the biggest. So let's say hello to Natalia. Hi, Natalia.
Hi, Art. How are you?
Rocking and rolling, sister. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm so happy. Well, you're not actually here because I'm in my basement.
I'm in Mykonos.
So you're in Mykonos, Greece, and we
Yes.
can kind of see the water behind you. And I thank you for coming on. I appreciate you taking your time. And I you know how much I love you and how much we've had experiences in the past. And you were one of the people on the top of my list that I wanted to talk to about real estate because of your knowledge base in this area. So first of all, well, my pleasure, absolutely. First of all, why don't you tell us, because I don't even know that I know this, how did you get to Chicago and get into real estate? Because you were born and raised in Greece, right?
Yes.
All right, so tell us how you got there in the first place.
Well, American Invesco, as you know, the owners were half Greek, half Americans. And at the time, they were here in Greece scouting out a big hotel that they wanted to convert. And, American Invesco was doing all that, condominium conversions, but somehow they got involved. And, always, the Greek Americans always have a little bit of a piece of their own country and do something in their country. So when the family, the Goulidas family, was in Greece, they were acquiring this huge, one of the best, actually, 5-star hotels in Athens. And I was introduced by a Greek American friend of mine because at the time they were looking for someone that speaks perfect English and Greek and can help them just with translations, just to help them translate the long Greek documents. Now, you would ask me, why wouldn't they hire an attorney? Well, they were hiring attorneys, but they needed someone also to be with them while they're talking to ministers and, and all the government people. And at the time, I was really young, but I knew my English was much better than any attorney or any other person. So anyway, to make the long story short, they hired me. I worked with them for 2 years trying to acquire this huge hotel, which was going to be condominiums slash casino slash hotel, all three. So after 2 years, when they were actually very close to get this hotel, and we worked very diligently to get this, the government fell apart. So the whole contest, who's going to win and how we're going to do it. Anyway, everything went busted. So I was going to be left without a job. And I was offered a job to come to Chicago. They liked what I did in Greece. They liked, my drive, me, full of energy and all that. So they told me, why don't you come to the States for 3 months just to see the company you'll be working for 2 years in Greece, to see who we are in Chicago. And I came for 3 months and ended up staying for 17 years. But anyway, so I came for 3 months to American Invesco, and Nick Golitas, the CEO at the time, wanted me to do the whole, as we call it, the McDonald's training, because I was the little Greek who didn't know anything. So he wanted me to learn everything about, so he put me to the HR department, then he put me to the mortgage funding department. So I learned about HR, financing, then I was in the accounting, and then finally he put me into the project management. And then I started working in the project management, and then I learned about sales. And one thing led to another. And as the company was growing, I was growing as well. So I stayed with them for about, I want to say, 9 years. So 9 years I was with them, and that's where you met me. And, at the time, we had the projects, 111 is Chestnut and this and that, and we're running around everybody like a maniac, trying to do our jobs, dealing with sales. And I worked close to the Greeks, and as well as the project managers, as you remember, Nick Mason and Sharon Rizzo and Santo Rizzo, and a lot of very good people and they actually knew what they were doing. They had a lot of experience. I learned everything from scratch. I have to say, I do appreciate that Nick Senior was actually putting me and placing me into meetings that I wouldn't even imagine I would go. Really, I was like a little sponge. I was like absorbing everything. How he makes the deals, how he negotiates. And I have to tell you, this is a really funny story. One day he had Donald Trump in his office, and they were talking about some stuff. And because I was the Greek, I didn't know that his name was Trump. I kept calling him Tramp. I thought that was really funny. Yeah, Mr. Tramp. And then finally, Nick says, "Okay, Natalie, we get it. Your accent is really weird." Anyway, so I learned a lot with American Invesco, and the rest is history, as you know. And then from then on, I got offered a new job from Equity Residential. Because within the 9 years with American Invesco, I learned a lot. I started from scratch. I knew all about how to convert buildings by then. I was very enthusiastic. I really loved it. So maybe something that you don't even know. My background is mechanical engineering. I always loved homes, but I didn't like the technical part. I kind of liked the part to be involved in the sales, and the negotiation and everything. And then finally, I got the offer from Equity Residential, and I moved and I switched companies, and I went with them, and then that's when we joined later, and then we worked again together.
Yes. So let's talk about that for just a minute. Well, actually, let's go back to AI for just a second. When you went through, I love that you called it the McDonald's approach, which is to put you in every different area. I have my opinion of which one you enjoyed more. Which one did you enjoy more?
Sales.
Yeah, I knew that's where you were going to go.
Yeah. Well, the sales is obviously the more fun, because, if you are the person who loves to dealing with people, you're involved in a lot of little aspects. You're involved with the marketing, a little bit of legal, the negotiation, and the construction, and there's a lot of bits and pieces that you are involved. So if you're the kind of person that likes diversity and you like to, communicate with people and to be a closer, then you have the right personality to do the sales. But as you know, it wasn't. Everybody thinks that sales is an easy thing. Like you shake hands and you say hello and goodbye, and you show an apartment and you're done. Well, that's not it. That's not it. I mean, we all know there's a lot of work behind it.
Well, we did find some people who thought that that was the case, and they would sign people, but they wouldn't close them.
Yeah. Yeah.
There
You
was
have
a
to be a
difference.
closer.
Right.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
There was a difference. We had a woman that we worked with who shall remain nameless, she signed like 1 out of every 3 people she met, and she closed 1 out of every 50 people, meaning those deals that she signed didn't actually close. And in that business, we lived on the closings. We didn't live on, you got to get the sale to be able to get it to close. But if you can't do that, that doesn't make you a great salesperson. That makes you a great order taker.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's why you want to call them closer. You want to be a closer. That's when the deal happens. There's a lot happening between the shaking the hands and signing the, down payment, and everything can fall apart until you go to the notary.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of salespeople think that their job is done when they get the person to sign the offer or the contract, right? And they go, all right, I'm done. You're not done.
Yeah. This is where it starts.
That's exactly right. This is where it starts. So then you moved over to Equity Residential, and Equity was just starting its condominium division. In fact, I think you were the first employee of the condominium division.
Yes. Equity Residential, actually, Sam Zell discovered me through David Schwartz, who's one of the partners, and he was part of the company at that time. And he recommended me to go meet with them because they were, Equity had about 12,000 units all over the country. So the idea was to cherry pick some of their portfolio to convert them into condominiums. In the beginning, the strategy, they hired me to set up the strategy. The strategy was to pick the apartment complexes or buildings that they were not doing so well, and they were not performing very well. So in the beginning, we started getting properties that we knew that they were not renting, they were not doing very well. They had like 40 or 50% occupancy. So they were giving me, out of the whole portfolio, the buildings that they knew either they're going to have to sell to someone, but it was very hard to sell when it's 40% occupancy. So, we had to do something. So the idea was very smart, actually, idea to convert them into condominiums. So in the beginning, the portfolio was not the best. Okay. It was not easy. So as we started becoming more of a team, because we had properties like in Seattle, Arizona, Illinois, and when I started to proving myself that this can be done, and I started making money, then I had the leverage to go back and discuss and say, hey, can I have better properties? Can we have something like, please give me something like in Scottsdale, Arizona? Do you remember that, on the lake? Or give me something better that we can actually. And I had to prove to them that even if you take even a better apartment building, you can still make a ton of money. The exciting part about being at Equity Residential was they didn't know this business at all. So I arrived there and I was like, quote unquote, that golden girl that was teaching these people. I mean, the CEO of Equity Residential, like Sam Zell and Alan George and all these. And I was teaching them how we do conversions. And, I was like, okay, I'm sitting in a meeting and everybody was listening to every word I was saying. So that was very exciting for me, because coming from a condominium conversion company, going into a REIT, totally different. We went from a family business to a REIT, which was actually at the time they entered the S&P 500 at Wall Street. It was a big thing. Everything was so different. Being in a family company at AI was easy. You go in, you talk to the senior, Nick Senior, the CEO, hey, we need to do this and this and this, done. Over there, You have to make a presentation. You have to pass it through the BOD. Everybody has to approve it. I mean, it was like, I was like, wow, this is a different company, the whole setup. So I learned the real, without insulting, but it was the real corporate America environment, like from the get-go. I mean, I learned so much that in the 9 years I was with AI, I learned how to make it done. It was more hustling and more, being on the field and learning, because you were rubbing against, with the salespeople and the CEO. And all. I went to the total corporate environment that I learned protocols and strategies and business plans and all these things. So that gave me so I had the best of both worlds. I knew what you need to get done without you on the field, and how to be with your salespeople and your people that do the work. And I also knew how to deal with the BOD members and how to talk to them and how to get things done. So, and it was very exciting because it was all new. I felt very important. I felt very good about myself at the time. And actually, once they started making money and, being also a company that's a REIT and it's, it's S&P 500, money matters, numbers matter. I mean, which company doesn't matter, but they were really cautious. And actually the process of taking a property from an apartment to convert it to condo, because Natalia said so, was not like that. We had to do and present to the board, like I had to present to the board why they need to sell to the condominium department this property. Everything was real. They had to pay money. We had to sell shares. They had to sell shares to buy. We had to buy. And it was really like we were like a client. We were like their client, and we're asking for this property to convert it into condominium. So that was really very interesting for me, that it wasn't just, hey, I like this property, give it to me, I want to convert it. No, it was like by the book, and step by step, you have to convince them why this property needs to come out of the portfolio, sell it to us, and blah, blah, all this stuff. It was really interesting. And once we started, then we had to prove to them that even a good property, making good numbers and performing even 100% occupancy and performing very well, we can show you that your tenants can buy. You remember how we were doing it? You were there, offering the the discounts and, first come, first served, and then became a big hit. So then once they liked that, because they evaluating a property, let's say in Scottsdale, Arizona, that if they would sell it as is, 100% occupancy, and they can make $25 million. And then here we come, the condominium conversion people tell them, okay, I can make you 55 million. Of course, it's a no-brainer. And if you remember, especially in Arizona, we sold them overnight. It was like, boom, remember, they were gone in one weekend. I mean, of course, we were heroes. So it was the good days. It was really nice.
Well,
I could talk forever.
I know, and that's okay, because I think it's interesting. I mean, yes, I was there with you while we did it. There's some days I think it was a dream. I think about it and go, did that really happen? But it did. And what was fun about it is that we, equity didn't have, so AI taught us how to sell, I think. It taught us how to be great salespeople and managers of salespeople, where Equity Residential taught us how to systematize the entire process.
The business, be more business.
Right.
Yes.
And there were days where it definitely, the differences were so stark. And I was like, are these people kidding? I mean, I remember I had a conversation about doorknobs, and without saying his name, who I had the conversation with, and he was arguing with me that these doorknobs versus levers the doorknobs would save us 8 cents each if we went with the doorknobs and instead of the levers. And I said, but the levers are what people are buying, the lever handles. I said, that's what we want. He's like, oh, the cost associated with doing that. I said, great, here's what we're going to do. He said, what? I said, I just raised every price $100. in the entire property. He's like, you can't do that. And I
Yes,
said,
I
yes,
can.
I can. I just did it. And so does that take care of your 8-cent doorknob? Because there was, he'd go, well, there's 10 doorknobs per apartment. And, I'm like, okay, so I just made you more money than that. And so there was a learning curve there. And, I had it easy compared to you, because you had to get them initially to give you the authority or the ability to do that, to even get started. I mean, I was in that second wave. You were wave number one, like the tsunami. And I was, that second wave but between us, the company absolutely understood what we were doing, and we proved it to them time and time again. And so when we did that, do you remember we were in a meeting one day and Sam walked in the door and he said, "This is the condo meeting?" We're like, "Yes." I mean, I'd never met the guy. You had at least met the guy before. I'd never met him. And he said, all right. I want 5,000 condos next year. I want it in a year. And then he turned around and he walked out. And we all sat there and went, oh, we have to put infrastructure in it. We have to speed up this process to be able to hit that goal.
I went there solo, just me in one office. And when I left, there were 52 people department. So it was really insane. We went crazy because, the 5,000 that he asked, it was like in the beginning, they were giving us the states and the smaller projects, like 100 units, 200. Then it was like, go to Florida, get a 2,000 project over there. Go to, it was like huge projects. It was insane. They were making a ton of money. I mean, we just opened the Pandora box for them. They were like, oh my God, we never knew this business existed, and we were like, because you have to remember, they had all these apartment buildings, they were losing money, they didn't know what to do with them, they were not making any money, and they were like selling them for like nothing. And we came in and we opened their eyes and we told them, and let's take credit for it. And you and me and the whole team, we told them, let's break it down piece by piece, make it a condo, and we'll triple your money. Do you remember when we sold the Scottsdale, Arizona? Remember when we arrived and there was like a line, like how many? Like 1,000 people? No, 300 people waiting outside our office. And you and I, we walked in and they were like, there she is, there she is. I felt like Cher, and like I have Mick Jagger next to me, we're walking and we opened the sales office and we see all these people. And you and I don't know if you remember this, we had on all around the sales office on the boards, the pricing for each unit. And you and I, we saw each other as salespeople. Both of us were like, raise the prices 20 grand each unit. And you took the marker and you start marking up all the prices, 20 grand each unit. We just made the company like another 3 million, just like that, in 2 seconds. And we opened the door. The first wave of people come. They look at all the floor plans. Everybody picks a floor plan. We had backup contracts. And then you said, Natalia, let's close the door and raise the prices again. And you raised the prices another 20,000. I mean, we were selling, it was insane, but it was like one weekend. We sold the project 4 times. We had 4 backups for each unit. Those were the days, huh?
Those were the days. Well, and what was interesting about that weekend is we had a full page ad in whatever the Scottsdale or whatever the newspaper was. And I remember that they left the address off the ad, like it was the last thing, and the newspaper lost the address. Like it wasn't. When I read this, I'm like, where's the address? And we still had people that found us and came and were just throwing checks at us. I want one of these. I don't care which one, I want one of these. So that was extremely exciting because we did this. And of course, we got our system down over the next, 4 or 5 or 10 of these that we ended up doing. But it certainly became, how can we do this better and faster than the last one? And that was a ton of fun. Now, it was a ton of work. I remember you were pregnant with your first daughter, and we were flying, whether it was Arizona or Florida, and you were probably 6 or 8 months along, maybe 6, 7 months along. And we were going, and we got these little tiny seats, and you're like, oh no, I can't sit here and be comfortable for 4 hours. So you went to the stewardess and you said, look, I'm pregnant. He's with me. She put us in first class. And you looked at me and I'm like, how'd you do that? She goes, if you don't ask, they're not going to
You'll never receive.
That's
Ask,
right.
you know who taught me that? Sam Zell.
Really?
Sam, yes, he told me that. Actually, when we were picking properties in Arizona, he flew me with a helicopter all around. That's how we pick the properties. Pick which one you want, which one. If one we're talking about, or the one I picked from the helicopter from above. I said, I want that one. He's like, that's one of the best ones. That's on the lake. Oh, yeah, that's the one I want. Why you have me up here? Why do you have me in those stupid helicopter? I want that project. You told me to pick. I want that one. And that's how we did it. Anyway, and it's crazy because, and here's the downfall of the whole thing. We sold it. And then when I came back in the office, and you don't know that, they called me in the office and they're like, I think you underpriced everything. And I'm like, what? We just made you like in one weekend, like, I don't know, 30 million, whatever. And like, yeah, but maybe we should have made 40. I'm like, I can't believe this. They're making money and they want more. And anyway, it was, but the thing is that they brought the people who knew how to sell, like you and me, and we were showing them, and then it became, okay, we want more. And it was like the kid in the candy store. They're like, okay, now let's do the next one, and let's do the next one, and then we were doing crazy stuff. I remember the story, like I'm flying from Arizona to Seattle, and we had this little project. It was like only 50 units or something. I still remember we rented deers. Do you remember that? We had deers caved. Maybe you weren't there at the time. We oh my God, we didn't know how to sell it. So because it was like kind of isolated project, in the middle of nowhere. So like, how are we going to, so we had to present like you are in nature. And I was thinking of marketing schemes and stuff because, sales always have to be hand in hand with marketing. So we rented beers. We had the fireplace on, smelling cookies in the houses. So when we had viewings and buyers coming, the maintenance guy would give, the walkie-talkie, the guy, okay, let the deers go, let the deer, and then the deers will run in the forest, and the wives would be like, oh, honey, look, we're in the forest, get the deers, and it was like, we presented a lifestyle, and we were doing so much stuff that to sell, only to sell. I mean, we had to come up with stuff and ideas all the time. I still do it, by the way. I still burn cookies and I still put stuff in the oven to make it homey. I don't know if the new people do that, the younger ones. I don't know if they go through all that trouble anymore.
Well, I don't think you burn cookies. You bake.
Well, yeah, I bake, but I said burn because I burned cookies once. I'm always scared I'm going to burn them. But anyway.
So
I know.
So we had a blast doing that. But at some point you decided to move on, right? And
Yes.
I don't recall what you did right after you left the group there. But at some point, though, you made a decision to move you and your girls back to Greece.
Yes. I moved back to Greece. I had, by that time, I had a very good offer from a very big developer in Greece. They were doing, before I moved to Greece, for like about a year and a half, I worked as a consultant in real estate. And I was working for developers. And maybe you don't know that because we kind of lost touch after that because I was a consulting person to developers who were building also malls and for the Scottsdale Mall, and so they asked for my advice, and so I kind of went into the retail side of the business, and it was a good move because it was another segment, or part of real estate that I didn't know much, so I went into the mall business, and I was consulting developers from abroad, not Americans, who were asking my opinion. You know, they were buying big pieces of land and they wanted to know, what they do with the mall, how they do it, how they promote it, what kind of retail. Anyway, so I kind of got into that, which was good because then prices came, residential always falls first, and then so it was kind of good that I was in the commercial part. Um, and then for personal reasons, after I was doing this consulting, I got an offer. And one thing led to another. Everybody, for some reason, they found out that I'm doing very well in this consulting business of mine. And a very big developer asked me from Greece if I would join them, because they had malls, shopping malls in Greece. And they were also, the shopping malls in Greece was a new thing, believe it or not. Um, so they needed someone who has the experience. And since the United States is the country of shopping malls, um, they kind of asked me to go meet with them. So I flew to New York. I met with the owner, and then Christmas of 2007, they hired me. In March 2008, I moved to Greece. 3 months later, they moved me. They paid for my move. It was like they wanted me so much. So I started working for them. So I started working for a developer in Greece, helping them setting up their shopping malls. They also have residential projects, so I kind of helped there too. And of course, I went as the Natalia, with, my energy and full of life and let's get this done. And, but it was very interesting because coming from United States, I brought so much experience to them on the other side of the world in Europe, and they were doing things so differently. And I was like, whoa, I gotta teach them everything here. So it was like, maybe I'm underpaid. So I started again. It was kind of like deja vu, like I was equity residential teaching them condo conversions. Here I am now with one of the largest developers in Greece, Lambda Development, they were called. I am teaching them, number one, on the residential project, what they should be doing. And number two, I'm showing them how to acquire malls and what to do and what to look for and what to be careful and all that. And they were big. I mean, they were buying proper malls in Eastern Europe and Romania, and Bulgaria, and Turkey. And they were buying malls everywhere. I was flying all over the place, and it was very different. And I remember, I'm going to tell you this. I remember my first week in Athens after I moved, and here comes my first trip. And they put me on the plane, and I'm flying to Ukraine, of all places. My first trip is to Ukraine. It was so strange. I'm sitting next to a lady with a basket with chickens and eggs, and I'm like, here I was flying to Miami and Seattle and New York, and now I'm flying to Ukraine with a lady with chickens and eggs next to me. It was so surreal. I was like, is this what's going to be now? Is this what I'm going to be doing? It was very art. I got to tell you, it was very, very different of what what I was accustomed to. I mean, because in the States, you travel, you still speak English where you travel. It's the same country. In Europe, I travel. Not everybody speaks English. I go to Ukraine. I need a translator to communicate with a developer who's Ukrainian and doesn't speak a word of English. It's okay. Then I go to Romania, same thing. I go to Turkey. Okay, they speak a little bit of English over there, but you would think that everybody speaks English, but hello, America, people don't speak English. Not everybody. So that was my first obstacle, I would say, dealing with Europe, because, it's Europe, but, everybody has their own language and their own strategies and their own business plans. And anyway, so here I am in Europe, here I am in Greece.
And so so how long did you work for Lambda?
I worked for Lambda it's funny because I went there in 2008, and then, the whole collapse, Lehman Brothers, the whole world collapsed. But I was lucky because I signed with them my salary and everything like 1 month before all that. So it was I was lucky. I stayed with them until 2011, and then at the time everything froze in 2000. End of 2008, they froze everything. They were not buying anything, not land, no malls, nothing. So the owner said, "That's it, stop everything." I mean, the world is going crazy. So there was this economic crisis everywhere, as you know. So I didn't know what to do. I was bored. So I walked into the CEO office and I said, "Okay, you gotta give me something to do. I'm bored. We're not buying anything. There's no project. I'm not a public worker and I can go home. Why are you paying me? I don't know what to do." And, I'm always honest. And he says to me, "You've been doing such a great job with marketing. Okay, you the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, just like that. Please help the malls. You have to help the malls to fill up with people. We are dying here because they built 4 malls and they were empty." So I was thrown into marketing. And I'm like, "Okay, this is fun, something new for me. So here we go." So I did a very good job for them. We had to keep the malls alive, so I had to come up with ideas, and then I got sponsors and, sponsoring the malls, doing all this. So that was about another year and a half. And then I wanted to quit. I didn't like it so much. I mean, it wasn't my thing, being in real estate all this long. So I formed my own company, and they hired me back as their consultant to do the marketing as a consultant now. And mind you, I was making more as a consultant than as an executive, being there, quote, parentheses there. So as I was there doing the consulting, and it was the point where I said, "Okay, time to move back to the States. I want to come back." So I'm thinking, "Okay, Natalie, you did well. Okay, I don't want to be in the commercial, the residential projects that I was accustomed to from the States were big, 200 units, 100 units, 300 units. That doesn't exist. Greece has 10 units, 5 units, 20 units. That's it." So I'm like, "What am I going to do? There are no big projects for me. This is all small, someone else. I mean, I don't want to do that." So I'm about to leave and move, by the way, so you know, to the States in 2014 or 2013. And Sotheby's approached me. And Sotheby's asked me, the person who had the brand Sotheby's in Greece was a new guy. I mean, he was a real estate guy. He was from an island, road, whatever. And he needed someone with experience and someone who knew Sotheby's, who knew the US style and all that. And he asked me to be the COO for Sotheby's. So I became the chief operating officer. So I set up the company for them. So I started working back on residential. So I convinced me not to leave, obviously, not to move to the States. It was very interesting. It was very fun for me again because I went back to the luxury segment, residential segment, doing sales again, training salespeople, which I love. And I was back in my own element. So that rejuvenated me. So I decided not to leave. I stayed till this day. Sotheby's Greece is doing very well. They are actually the pioneer, actually, and they are the top agency, I would say, in Greece right now. I helped them. I stayed there for 2 years, and then another big company in Europe, Enkel and Focus, as you call them in the States, ENV. They know them because nobody can pronounce this German name, Enkel and Focus. The German company hired me to be their CEO. So then I became the CEO for the company there. I stayed there for 2.5 years, and then coronavirus came, and everything landed to zero. It was really awful, lockdowns and all that. And then as I did get coronavirus. I was one of the first people, actually. The lockdown was March 11th, March 8th. I was already in bed. So anyway, I was one of the first people in Greece who got. So I think I'm like a lot of people. I kind of restarted thinking my life. I was working a lot for them. Um, you know, being the CEO and president, by the way, because I had both titles, president and CEO for Enkel and Focus, I was not involved in the sales. I was just behind the desk ruling. That was boring for me. So I wanted to get involved. I wanted to be in the action. I didn't want to be the person who just signs invoices and makes strategies and is like behind the desk and has no idea. I didn't like it. I was just taking interviews, being the face of the company, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that's not, so I quit. Everybody thought I was nuts. Coronavirus, everything goes busted. Are you quitting? Why? Are you crazy? What are you doing this? Everybody thought I'm crazy. But it felt right for me at the time. I thought I was losing myself because I wasn't involved in sales and I didn't feel I was in a real estate company. I was always in board meetings and making decisions but it wasn't me. It wasn't what I wanted to do. So I left Enkel and Focus, and for about a year, I was just focusing on my kids and I was just being mommy. So I was a mommy. Um, but having said that, I was the mommy. I did have a little real estate company on my own, which was strictly luxury, strictly Mykonos selling, and I didn't make two huge sales. Which okay, it was nice being mommy, but it was kind of funny. You are at the supermarket and buying detergent, and then I'm talking about an $8 million deal with a buyer. That was nice. So there, and then after that, in recently, the company that you mentioned in the beginning, Von Paul, uh, asked me to join them and be the CEO for Von Paul Greece. Von Paul is another multinational brand from Germany, the biggest rival of Enkel and Focus. Obviously, that's why they wanted me, because so obviously I did something good because Enkel and Focus is doing very well right now in Greece. So they want me to set up that company for them and do the same thing. Because right now, setting up Sotheby's, setting up Enkel and Focus, third time, they said, okay, this lady knows what she's doing because both companies are doing very well. So please now do this for us. But this time around, my contract is I am part of the sales. I don't want to be behind the desk. There's a different deal for me. I get to pick. I made it a better contract for me. I like the training of the agent. I like to be involved. So all these were just put it all in writing. So I am much happier now. I'm doing exactly what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing, and so here I am.
Hey there, Real Estate Roundtable podcast listeners. I want to take a moment to tell you about our sponsor, I Love Real Estate School. If you're looking to get your real estate license or fulfilling your continuing education requirements, I Love Real Estate School's got you covered. As an Illinois licensed school, they offer the state-required broker pre-license course, managing broker pre-license courses, post-licensing courses, and continuing education. And the best part, you can take the courses either through their live stream with a live instructor or online home study. So no matter where you are, you can get the education you need to take your real estate career to the next level. I Love Real Estate School is committed to helping you succeed in the industry. That's why they offer comprehensive, high-quality education at an affordable price. So, if you're ready to start your real estate journey or stay up to date with your continuing education, head on over to iloverealestateschool.com today to learn more. So, in listening to you and in knowing you, I would say the one constant, and obviously you talked about your personal energy, and you were definitely always the one that kind of drove the bus. I mean, your energy drove a lot of what we did when we worked together. But I think that one of the things that we may have learned from Nick Galitas Sr. was the idea that to be able to sell, you must create energy. Would you say that that's a fair statement?
Yes. A lot of people who want to be in the real estate business, first of all, as we mentioned in the beginning, they think it's easy. Well, it's not. The one thing that I see everybody's making a mistake. They're terrible listeners. They are so involved in trying to sell the property. They are not listening to the buyer's needs, like what they want. Like, I think I am doing well and teaching also my agents, because mainly we're selling vacation homes, and also, here you are like on an island in Mykonos, and there's traffic, of course, and the villa. Okay, sometimes the winter is much better because the villas are empty, there are no tenants, but my agents were like so, oh, some villas sell by themselves, but still, you have to be honest. Like I canceled viewings. I would say, okay, now that I met you, I could tell to the client, now that I met you, I'm not going to show you the villa. I don't think that's not for you. What? What do you mean? Trust me. I know this villa is not for you. Like, I don't want to waste your time. I'm not going to show you 3 villas. I'm going to show you 2. You have to be honest with them. So there's a lot saying, and your energy. You have to be honest. Energy, obviously, not that you're not bored. You have to love what you're doing, and be nice. I mean, it's as simple as that. Just be nice and honest. Don't BS them. They're not stupid. What I'm telling my agent is, this guy must have done something better than you because he wants to buy a 5 million house. So don't underestimate him. As simple as that.
Right. Absolutely. So let me ask you, what do you see as the differences in selling real estate in the US versus real estate in Europe?
Oh, wow. A good question, by the way. Okay. In the States, real estate is a very serious business. I'm starting from the part that people respect you when you're a broker or a real estate agent. The reason is, first of all, you have to go through school. You have to learn a few things. You got to get a license. In Europe, you don't. You just go and you show up. You say, hi, I finished high school. I want to be a real estate agent. And boom, here's the license. So we got everybody you can imagine can be a real estate agent or a broker in most of the countries in Europe. Some, they have some kind of school, but nothing like the books we are reading and we're studying in the United States. Number one. So automatically, it's not a very respectful job, I may add. So you, they, it's a very different perspective of what they treat you like you're an insurance agent. And no offense to the insurance agents, but they treat you like you don't know what the business is all about because you're just a little agent. So you have to come across as very professional. There are no rules. No rules apply. United States, 3+3 commission. End of story. Greece, which is a good thing and a bad thing. Greece, we can get up to 5 and 6% from the seller, 3% from the buyer. Or we can get 2 and 2, or we can get 3 and 2, or there's no rule, no law, no protocol, no nothing. Anything can happen. So, exclusivity. You can get the exclusivity in the States. Okay, let's say that you got it here, especially now in Greece, to get an exclusive house. It's a big thing. But man, the seller, if you don't sell it, he hates you. It's like they don't respect the fact that you marketing the property, you spend a lot of money on it and blah, 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 all that stuff. And then if you don't sell it, they're mad at you. They're not, I realized that in Greece, I had to educate the sellers of that, what exclusivity means. Like, okay, even if you sell it or your brother sells it, I still have to get paid. That's what exclusivity is all about. I was teaching them stuff. So to go back and answer in one word your question, there are no rules in Europe. No rules apply. It's everything can happen. There's no the professionalism only comes through those big brands that I mentioned, like Enkel and Folkers and Von Paul, because to be honest, yeah, my name is big in real estate in Greece, and I could open the Natalia Realty, but still, I need a big brand behind me with the 350 offices in Europe. Okay, because that's how many we have as Von Paul, and with a trained experience, because these companies, they train the agents. Because there's no law to go to school to get a license, what these companies do and the brands do, they train themselves, the agents. So before they go out there, at least they know 5, 10 things before they start talking to buyers and sellers. It's not easy. The competition now obviously is big, Greece right now, for me, and this is one of the big things I always make in many of my interviews, is the Florida of Europe. End of story. All of the people are Northern Europeans, Americans or Greek Americans. Those are the ones who are buying in Greece. And yes, it's sunny. We have a lot of islands, vacation homes, and the return on investment is very big. Right now, we can go and get into numbers if you want, but the the process, and I want to add also this, the process of buying a property in Greece is not as hard as everybody thinks, or in Europe in general. It's not so hard. The
For
hardest
American,
city
meaning for
for
American,
American.
if an American wants to
Yes,
buy in Europe or Greece, you're saying the process isn't as hard as one might think.
yes. And the reason is, okay, there's a lot of people who got, and yes, they got burned. Here's the thing. When you have as an agent a good company behind you, like the one I'm in right now, let's say Font Paul, we are here and we become, because there is no escrow account, by the way. There's no escrow account in Greece or in Italy or in Spain. Does not exist. So, you know, in the States, you put the money in an escrow account. Fine. So you are protected. Your down payment is protected. In Europe doesn't have that. So what we do, the big company is acting as the intermediary. So we are your escrowee. So we get your down payment and we protect you. So when the due diligence, you know, you do the legal due diligence and your technical due diligence, your money's there and it's safe with us. So if something happens that cannot be resolved or whatever, we return back your earnest money and we're done. This was not happening 5 years ago. 5 years ago, you come in, Art, you buy a house in Mykonos or in Santorini or in Paris or Crete or whatever, you put your down payment and you give it to the seller. The seller keeps your 20,000. Okay. Something's wrong with the property. It's not 200 square feet, it's 180 or it's 150 or whatever, something wrong with it. Or you ask for your money back. Try and ask again. The money's gone. The seller kept your money. So this happens so many times that it scared a lot the foreigners to come back and buy property, especially in Greece, and in Italy is even worse, and Spain and all the Mediterranean countries. Well, now with all these brands coming in and acting as your escrowee or your intermediary, and don't forget, we collect commission from both sides. We are the intermediary. So I represent the seller and the buyer. I have the responsibility to protect the buyer and the seller. Both, it's hard, it's a hard job because you collecting commission from both sides. So you have to be fair for both sides. So by me collecting the money, I have to set straight the seller. I say, hey, the money comes to us. We keep it. If your property checks fine, legally and technically, you will get the down payment. Other than that, and then we move to go to the notary and all that. That was established about 5 years ago, but only by the big brands that I mentioned before. The smaller local offices, they don't have that assertiveness, I want to say. You know, they would say, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, you know, you give the down payment and go to the seller. I would never do that. I would never put the money and I would never put the earnest money of the buyer at risk at any cost. No way. If you don't want, if the seller says, no, I want the earnest money, I said, okay, no deal. Goodbye. That's it. So it's not as black and white as it is in the States. Here, it's only black and white, and it's only you are protected only if you go with a good big company. That's what this is my advice to all the Americans who want to buy something in Europe. Pick a company, and the first question you should ask is the due diligence, the process, and if I give you a down payment, where does the money go? That's what I would ask.
Got it. And have you seen an influx of Americans buying in these in European countries?
I've seen them buying so far. There's a lot of Portugal. They're buying a lot of United States people move to Portugal, Italy, southern Italy, and the reason is the prices are very low. I mean, and in the bigger islands of Greece, like Crete, Rhodes, it's kind of like a retirement plan. because you have to think the cost of living is much cheaper. So let's say your $5,000 or 4,000 or six, whatever your your pension or your retirement is, it goes a lot further in Greece than it does in the States. So a lot of people discovered that, and it's sunny, obviously, and the food is better, and you live on an island. Um, so there's a lot. I would say retirees, which is a retirement plan, and other Americans, they're buying because of the yield, the return on investment, especially like islands like Mykonos or Paros. The return on investment is 8%. It's killing. It's great. You're buying a house and you're making. If I tell you the prices of the villas that are renting in Mykonos, it's just insane. You're buying a villa and you can rent it for like 1,000 or 1,500 a day or 2,000 a day. I mean, you make 8% yield. Zurich makes 4. We got a lot of Swiss. I tell you, I quote, if you see the Swiss people buying on an island like Mykonos, they've done the numbers on the math before you and me.
Right. Right.
Because they're all about numbers. They're bankers.
One of the things that I noticed when I was in Rhodes many years ago was the construction. I was surprised because in the US we do stick built properties, so it's wood, that type of thing. I was shocked at the fact that most houses there are block, right? The cinder block, and then all the other stuff around it. Is that pretty much, is that pretty much all of Greece? That type of construction?
Yeah. I have to say the construction here and the quality is much better than the United States. The construction, the way they build houses and the materials that they use, it's insane. They are, and when I was last year, I was in Miami. So I was looking at, some of the penthouses and whatever they were selling and the condos. And it was like fake. I felt like it was fake materials. I mean, the materials that they use in a house and the finishes that they use in a house in Greece, it's superb. I have to tell you, the architecture and the woods and the marbles and the granites and everything. It's just so much superior. And the way the infrastructure, the cement that they're pouring in, it's much. We had a lot of drywall in the States, everything is drywall, bam, bam, slam, bam, thank you, ma'am, and we're done. The house is up in 2 days. Here it takes 18 months, but it's worth it.
Yeah. Like I said, I was very surprised. Part of it has to do with the climate as well, though, right? Because if you had built too many things out of wood, a lot of the moisture that's there constantly would have a negative effect, right?
Yeah, the humidity, of course.
Right. So the blocks certainly seem to be a way that that they built these properties, and then on top of the block is plaster.
Insulation and plaster, yes.
Yeah. So, I was impressed with the quality of what they were building, and coming from our background, I'm like, well, that would take way too long to build at home. We don't have that kind of time. But you got to think that these houses are built to last a century where houses here are built to last today, are built to last probably over a 50-year span. And that's after you replaced a few things as well.
Yeah. These are all legacy homes. Families keep them for years. They last. And when you talk about renovation, the renovation is, it happens after 20 years. But still, that I have to say the construction is much better than the one we were doing in the United States, even if it's a house or a building or a high rise or whatever.
Right. So you had said earlier that one of the things that you enjoy doing is training your salespeople, right? So, I teach new people coming into the business. So given your experience and the fact that you currently still train salespeople, I'm going to ask you 2 questions about this. First of all, is what is your advice for somebody coming into the real estate business at this point in time?
First of all, it has to be a full-time job. You're doing this as a gimmick or a part-time job, you're going to fail. You have to have your heart in it. It's a full-time thing. If you love it, you really enjoy it, you are going to succeed. It's a lucrative business. It's the best kept secret in town. You're good, you make money. My advice is real estate, either you love it or you hate it. If you don't love it, don't do it.
All right. I love that. And then the second question is, well, in your mind, what is the number one skill that somebody in real estate needs to have?
Be a good listener.
Okay, you said that earlier, so expand on that a little bit more.
By being a good listener, which covers a lot of things, because when you're a good listener, that means that you really care about the other person has to say. Being in Greece, I'm going to tell you, they say about the Greeks, which is like that's my biggest problem here. In Greece, you have the one guy, what monologue is, one person talking to themselves, Dialogue in Greece is two people talking to themselves. So that's my biggest problem here. I said, listen to the client, listen to what he's telling you. Don't go in, start because they're so anxious to sell the property. They're talking about the property and this and that, and look at the big living room and the pool and the view and the this and the that. Listen to what he is asking you. Find out the family's needs. Listen to them. Win them over. They don't do that. I always use the example. We are not on the spinning wheel on TV showing the refrigerator and here it is and it looks beautiful. Go into the guts of the refrigerator, learn everything and learn what the client likes about that. They have to listen. They're not listening. They are so into selling this property that they forget all about the client.
Okay.
That's my thing.
Okay. So how do you train your salespeople to listen better?
The best training is on the field. We do trainings. I take them. I take 3 or 4 of them, and I'm like, okay, how you used to have the movie "Sell Me This Pen." Well, I'm like, sell me this apartment. Tell me. So I am the mother, and I have 2 kids, and blah blah blah. Sell it to me. So I train them by watching them. You have to each training adjust on each agent's personality. We have mechanical engineer. The engineer focuses on the guts of the house and he forgets all about the beautiful curtains and the big, everybody has a different perspective, how they're looking at the product, the house. So every person that I train, I try to get out their best that they have. The engineer is very detailed, so he's going to focus on the detail. So much that he will even focus on the little corner humidity that the house has, and which I need to figure out how to get him away from that and focus on the big space of the living room instead of the humidity of the, you got the lady who's never worked before, but she's very nice with people and she's the sweetest and the cutest. Every agent, you need to understand their personality. And I'm focusing on how can I mold their best attributes, the best stuff out of the personality. It's not black and white and it's not the same. But the one thing I'm teaching them how to be a good listener is just by telling them, we walk through, okay, listen to what I'm telling you. I'm a single mother with 2 kids. Sell me this apartment. What do you think I need? So, ask me questions. How old are my kids? Which school do they go? Where do they go? What do they like? I mean, focus on my kids. It's all part of ask the question. Or the other thing is they finish the viewing and how did the viewing go? Oh, it went very well. Did you get an offer? No. Well, it didn't go well then. You gotta be. So what do you mean it went well? Did you hear? And then another thing, nowadays, you have to be a little bit more assertive and more aggressive. And the one key thing is to follow up. They don't do it. They send 2 emails, the 3rd email, and that's it. They drop it. I think you have to, there's a statistic that I'm using all of it. I mean, you would sell something on a second email or a second viewing 2%. That's a 2%. You need to be consistent and you need to keep following up on them. That's okay. Don't give up. For example, I have a client coming on the 20th of May. He wants to buy a 4 million house in Miracles. Well, guess what? I've been talking to this guy for a year. So imagine how much follow-up I've done. So if I can do it, you can do it. Let's keep following up. Don't give up. Don't give up. But they're not answering back. That's okay. Keep sending them. Hey, this is what do I say? Find ways. Oh, I saw this article. I thought you would be interested. Hey, rates are going up. Or you look at that, what's going on in Paris. Or here's what's going on in Greece. Oh, did you see? Fine. That's okay. When the time comes, he will call you because you are in his face in a nice way. That's the biggest thing that they don't do. The new agents, especially, they don't know the key to success is to follow up.
Well, and we've proven that time and time and time again throughout our careers. Let me ask you this. How, I know how social media has had an effect in the States. What kind of an effect has social media had in terms of lead generation, in terms of any of that or is it a non-factor in Europe?
No, it's a very big factor. It's all about social media right now. I mean, but we are not, and here's another big difference. I mean, you see in the States, all the agents, walking through their properties and TikTok and Instagram and this and that. They don't do it so much here. The agents don't expose themselves so much. They don't walk through the properties and I mean, you might see them in Dubai or UAE, which, Dubai for me is a wannabe United States place. So they copy everything. But in Europe, the companies do a lot of social media promoting the product, the villas, the apartments, the houses. But yeah, it's the number one marketing campaign. It's the social media.
So again, people do use it. People do generate leads from it there as well.
Yes.
And
yes.
If I'm hearing you right, you're saying the company does the majority of it, but the individual agents, they're not doing as much of it.
No, because that's another difference that actually in the United States, you go and you hang your license and you're a real estate agent and you hang your license with a real estate broker and you get your commission and you get, let's say, if you're a good one, 70-30, 60-40, whatever the deal is. In Europe is pretty much 50-50. So, the company does everything for you. They do all the marketing materials for you. If you're an agent, they pick up all your expenses. They do everything for you. Some agents, some companies pay your cell phone, pay your gas, pay your car, whatever. If you're good, they keep dropping your stuff at you. You get a lot of benefits, and all they want you is to sell, but they give you 50%. So in the States, if you're a huge or a good one, especially in New York, you get 95% or 90 or whatever. Sometimes you get, but in Europe, it's usually 50-50, and they get all the expenses covered. So you don't see like the super duper agent of an office, promoting herself by herself. And here I am, I'm look at this house, and the company does that for you. They promote, and then they're not so into your face as an agent, but they're also in your face as a company.
Got it. Well, that's a huge difference then.
Yes. I forgot to mention that.
Well, that's all right. No, that's a great, I had no idea that was the case. So, I mean, at 50-50, it always goes back to what I say to my students. When picking a company, you get what you pay for. In this instance, if you're paying 50% and they're taking care of everything like that, that's not a bad expense to have.
No. I mean, it's a standard procedure. Like right now, I'm in the process of recruiting my agents. I start the junior ones with 40-60. My senior ones get 50-50, and my really good ones are 70-30. So that's it. And I'm giving them a laptop. I give them a cell phone. I pay for the gas. I mean, we're spending all the marketing on the company. We're promoting them. I want them to be happy, and I want them to make money. So the company makes the company, I'd rather have 10, 15 of them and split 50-50 with them, but they're all happy and they all make money. And it makes a nice environment. It's not so antagonistic. They don't kill each other over a deal, and they all split 50-50 or whatever. So it's fair, I would say. But it all depends on who, how the broker. I mean, we have some rules, that we follow. But they're because their expenses are covered, let's put it this way, so they're not anxious of paying stuff and you are supporting them until they make their deal. It's a big thing for them.
Yeah, that's huge. It makes me want to start learning Greek, I guess.
You don't have to learn Greek. English is fine. We don't
All
have
right, well
Greek
then.
buyers.
I can, hey, you never know, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. That's a great setup. And before we end, because I know you've got some other commitments and I appreciate you doing this, any last thoughts that you would want to give our listeners in terms of whether the difference between, Europe or US, or really, I like to focus on what new people can do, or even experienced people can do in this market. Any tips or techniques? I mean, you've talked a lot about some of these, but anything you want to leave them with?
Be patient. It all falls into place if you follow up and be patient. That's all. This business can make you a lot of money. Just be smart about it and be patient.
And stick with it, right?
Yeah, stick with it. People think that, you join the real estate and you start making money the next day. No, just be patient, but it will all fall into place. But as I said, you have to love it. You have to love it. I love it. I'm enjoying it. I wake up in the morning and you have to be happy about it. Don't do it because you have nothing else to do.
Right. Well, and I can tell you your love for it goes back the entire time I've known you. And that when we were on the road and we would get up and we'd be like, let's go. And what are we going to do today? And how are we going to sell this? And let's go look at that. And let's, the going back to the energy, I think in this business, you get out of it what you put into it. And when you put into it energy like you have, obviously you've had a tremendously successful career. It's not over yet because you're still young. And you've got a lot of stuff ahead of you. And let me just wish you, a ton of luck with your new position there at Von Paul Grease.
Thank you.
I know just like in the other stuff that you've done before, it's going to be a home run because literally everything you've done has been a home run. I mean, it's been amazing to watch your career, to be part of it for a little bit. And, I just so appreciate you taking the time to do this for me and for our listeners, Natalia. I really just want to say thanks and good luck with whatever you've got going on. And in this new position, you're going to rock and roll. I know it.
Thank you, Art. Anything for you.
Thanks again to our sponsor, I Love Real Estate School. Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Roundtable podcast. I hope you enjoyed hearing from our amazing guests and you picked up some valuable tips and insights that you can use in your own real estate business. If you liked what you heard today, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring you more great content in the future. And if you're an agent who's interested in coaching, I'd love to hear from you. You can contact me directly through my website, myrealestatesalesmanager.com, or connect with me on social media. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you the next time in the Real Estate Roundtable podcast.